Hello and welcome to today's episode of Health University, where I have the good fortune of greeting Doctors Joe Sanfilippo and Dr. Carrie Andrew-Jah. And these two amazing doctors have written a book called Everyday Medical Miracles. Thank you, Dr. Sanfilippo. I couldn't get it up on my screen. And this book is a heartwarming, heartfelt collection of stories from about 40 different medical professionals from the fertility and pregnancy community. And I thought I was just going to be, reading it to glance so that I could ask the right questions, but it just so takes you in because these are real life human stories that really are the reason why we get into the field of healing arts and medicine anyway. So I cannot wait to delve into this a little bit more, but let me do a quick bio introduction of you. So Dr. Sanfilippo is a tenured professor in obstetrics, gynecology, and reproductive sciences at the University of Pittsburgh School of Medicine, and a distinguished alumnus of the Rosalind Franklin University of Medicine and Science Chicago Medical Center. He is past president, and I think this is how we met each other, of the American Society of Reproductive Medicine, and is highly regarded expert who has spent many, many years as America's top doctors. So welcome, Dr. Sanfilippo. And Dr. Carrie Andrew-Jah is a retired clinical professor of obstetrics, gynecology, and reproductive sciences and past president of the medical staff of the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center, the Magee Women's Hospital. He's received multiple Best Doctors in America and Outstanding Educator recognitions, and he was widely known, and I love this, as the singing doctor for celebrating each child he delivered with songs like Happy Birthday and What a Wonderful World. I mean, really, isn't that what it's all about? So these distinguished gentlemen have taken it upon themselves to also, in their spare time, put together this amazing book where they've created a compilation of stories from 40 different contributors. And I'm going to give them the floor to talk about, what was the motivation? How did you guys come together to decide to do this? And then I'll zip it for the time being, but I'll probably ad lib because it's what I do.
Thank you, Susan, and no need to zip it. We're always looking forward to your comments.
Thank you.
First of all, thank you very much for the opportunity. And this is, I have to use the word exciting because it's an opportunity to share something that Dr. Jah and myself have worked on. Actually, it started in February of 2023.
Oh, wow.
And exactly. And to step back for a minute, how did we kind of get together? Well, it all started when I was the chairman of the Department of OBGYN at what we call Allegheny General Hospital in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, and that's where I reside. And this is a community hospital. We had a residency in obstetrics and gynecology, et cetera, and a very busy, surgical and obstetrical entity, if you will.
Mm-hmm.
Dr. Jah was the vice chairman, so we worked together all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, it was a privilege for me because, Carrie had experience in that institution before I got there, and it really was very cohesive. Well, unfortunately, that institution had some financial difficulties, and they were, like I say, going down south. And so the University of Pittsburgh Medical Center, UPMC, I would say, threw a life raft out, and I jumped on it and went over it. Soon thereafter, Dr. Carrie Andrew-Jah also came over to Magee Women's Hospital. That's our main area. And through the years, we have always been friends. So I want to just stop here and turn it to Carrie because he has to give his side of the coin.
Well,
Please.
the meeting was great. The getting to know Joe was wonderful. Yeah, both in the office, in the clinic, and outside of the hospital. It was all a good feeling around him, and I'm sure he can say the same. Working together as colleagues was wonderful. Now, we've been at Magee now we were there, I left a couple of years ago, but we got there in 2001. Wow. You got early in the year, I got there mid-year. But as it turned out, I won't call it an office, the Center for Fertility and Reproductive Endocrinology was on one side of this hall, and on the other side was my suite of offices. So we're across the hall from each other.
I love
Whether
it.
they planned it that way to build new units for us, but it turned out beautifully. And
Oh,
I was delighted, and I found myself very easily telling the patient, you just walk across there and meet the best infertility doctor in the world,
yeah.
and the results proved wonderful. Sending my patients who were having difficulty with getting pregnant, sending them across the hall, the great results, I kept sending more and more. And my colleagues also did the same. And his staff, maybe Joe had nothing to do with it, but his staff reciprocated. He
Well,
did. And sent
exactly.
me
That's the
those
outcome, isn't it then?
those patients who did not have a doctor yet, or attached to them, got to meet me, and many of them liked
Yeah.
to stay in our practice.
Yeah.
So there was that bond there
I
all
love
along.
that.
And we got to know each other, as I said, socially too. Our families got to know each other, and daughters' weddings, we were part of each other, daughters' weddings. So it's been a great relationship for both of
Oh,
us.
that's beautiful. And it comes across in your conversations. I mean, you can I get
Yes,
really feel the
yes,
friendship and the depth and longevity of friendship and the
yes,
professional collegiality that has just, kind of
yes,
woven it all together. So
yes.
I'm dying to know, was it just through conversation that this idea cooked up to have to tell the stories? Like, what was the genesis for saying, there are some special stories we need to tell?
Yeah, I want to tell you this before Joe starts. He knows most of it because he started this out, but he can't help it. Joe can't help it. He has to write books. He's this. His I think his mission on life is to educate. So that is how it started. Joe, you say the rest, and I'll tag on at the end.
Thank you, Carrie. And so it really started with a phone call. And one more time, that was back in February 2023. And I said, Carrie, I have this idea. What do you think about it? Supposing we were to recruit a number of healthcare professionals and ask them to share their most interesting patient stories. They all obviously had to be true stories. And so Carrie responded, hey, I like that idea. And what I have to say is the saving grace is Carrie just embraced this book. Well, what does that mean? Attention to detail, contacting people, changing things online, making sure there's not one typographical error in this book. So I'm serious. He gets the credit to it,
Got it.
and he is way more detailed oriented than I am. So it was a nice mix.
That's beautiful. That's
Mm,
beautiful.
wonderful.
How did you decide on who you were going to reach out to? Because obviously there are thousands of your colleagues who could have been telling the story. And I found it so interesting that there was such a thread, a continuity of messaging throughout the stories that was, again, always heart-centered. It could have gone in any direction, but this really became like just personal stories that touched the hearts and minds of the people who were sharing them. How did you distill that from all of your people?
Not easily, but let Carrie take the lead on this one.
Okay.
Well, it had to relate to the people we knew to start with. That was the easier part. I mean, being at McGee, we knew the medical staff there. We knew the nursing staff. We knew the infertility staff that worked there. The advanced practice providers, in midwives, nurse practitioners. You can see all of them listed. The nurses, the medical assistants that we recruited to join in this venture. So it was
Even an
easy that way.
EMT, as I heard,
Yes,
even an EMT.
yes. Now that was easy, and Joe had this wide national recognition that he could invite all the infertility and the adolescent medicine colleagues that of his, and I could have invite friends that I had known for a long time in Pittsburgh, where I had spent 40 years of my career. So it was easy that way. Now we had to reach out to them. We had to drop a proposal He shared with them what the guidelines would be to write this book. The technical aspects is not for
Yes.
broadcasting.
Yes,
We wouldn't
yes.
give out all the secrets, let people do that way. But we reached out to them and and they were all very thrilled.
I
And
know.
maybe a couple of people who didn't find time at that moment to do it, but
Mhm.
almost everybody we invited did, and many had many stories. And
Yes,
we
of
had
course.
decided this is a good size. Everybody told us, advised us, this is a good size. Don't make it like a 500-page book. So
Yeah,
we
we don't
kept
need
it
War and
shorter.
Peace.
Yeah, yes. You don't need War and Peace indeed. So
Right.
this was that was the idea to get the people we know and expand the list of contributing authors.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, I have, having been able to read some of it, I have an understanding of what it is I'm asking about, but would you each give us an example, the listening audience, of a story, what, and why that kind of story might have been what was brought forth and shared for the public?
Okay, I'll start. And even before I mention that, Susan, I want to just say to your audience, if anyone out there has an idea, go for it. Okay, and if there's one take home from this podcast, it's follow your dreams. And seriously, and I can't encourage you enough. There are many stories. The one that immediately just comes to mind is when I was a resident in obstetrics and gynecology. Now I did my training in Syracuse, upstate New York,
Mhm.
and very busy program as you would envision. And so the way that was set up, and this was again in the 70s, the late 70s,
Mhm.
it was basically that a woman would labor here and then be moved to a delivery room. So they were separate entities. So why I'm telling you this is we had a patient who was, this was her third pregnancy, and her previous pregnancies went pretty fast in terms of labor. So fast forward, she's in labor, and we're waiting for the attending physician to come to the hospital, okay? And I said to the nurse, we need to get her to the delivery room. I don't know if we can wait for him. Okay, so we go to the delivery room and everything's going well. Now, remember, in the 70s, we did not do ultrasounds routinely. We had very, preliminary ultrasound.
Mhm.
Yeah, it looks like it's head first vertex, or it looks like it's breech. Nothing like today.
Mhm.
So this woman gets a contraction, and initially we're encouraging her to blow it away so we have a little more time for the attending physician. Finally, she said, "I can't do this." I said, "Okay, we're going to deliver this baby." Now, at that point, as a second-year resident, I had delivered several hundred babies. I was very comfortable. Actually, I used to deliver in the homes with a nurse as a medical student, but that's another whole story.
Wow.
And where I'm going with this is we deliver the baby. And at that time, the fathers were not allowed in the delivery room, but could stand at the doorway. So I delivered the baby, and the husband says, "What is it, doc?" And I says, "It's a girl." He says, "Oh, okay." And so then he looks at me, he says, "Doc, everything okay?" There was another family practice resident with me, and he says to me, "I think there's another baby in there."
Oh my
Says, "What?"
goodness.
I'd go in there, palpate the uterus, and sure enough, and what we have to do is manipulate the baby so that the head comes down first and all that stuff. So I'm doing that. And so I say to the husband, obviously I have my mask on, "Yeah, everything's fine, but I think we have another baby." And he says to me, "You mean I have another chance for a boy?" I said, "Yeah." Okay, so we delivered the baby and everything went well, etc. And of course
But
he
you
says
have
to
to
me,
tell us, was it a boy?
"Well, you got to read the book."
Good answer.
But all I can say is everyone lived happily ever after. But can
Lovely.
you imagine? The title of the story is "Went in for one and came home with two," and
Oh,
that's the one I wanted to
that's
share.
that's like a buy one get one. You had a BOGO.
Right? Yeah. Both.
Thank you for sharing in our conversation here at Health University. One of the ways in which we help people improve their fertility is through our 5-element fertility quiz. Please click on the link below at yourfertilityquiz.com and take this short quiz. You'll receive a free report that includes easy to implement ideas to improve your whole health and your fertile health. Now let's return to our topic in today's episode. And Dr. Jah-Jah, do you have a favorite story that you would like to share as well?
I mean, it can't be. I can't say it's the favorite because there are many favorites. You know, this is one of the few I want to share.
Mm-hmm.
It's a story about a patient who had diabetes mellitus in pregnancy, and it can be a very serious condition, as we all know. Some more serious than others. She has had her diabetes since childhood, and so she was sicker than most diabetics. Many years of that. Fortunately, a few years before this story, she had a healthy baby boy. They were hoping for a bigger family. She gets pregnant. And unfortunately, with this pregnancy, she gets to mid-trimester. And on one ultrasound occasion, when at the time when you're going to know what is the baby? Is it going to be a boy or girl? Everybody was ready to find out. There was no heartbeat.
Oh, goodness.
Baby had gone.
Oh, my
It was
goodness.
supposed to be 20 weeks, but baby had passed on maybe 3 weeks prior to that. As you can imagine.
Heartbreaking.
Shocking.
Yeah.
Anxiety comes in after immediately. What's going to happen to us now?
Yeah.
I mean, they dealt with it. At this juncture here, it was fortuitous is the word I want to use, that there was a doula who was in the vicinity. They invited her to accompany this lady and to support her through the ordeal of even delivering the baby after you find that the baby had passed.
Yes.
Doula was there, held her, got to know the family, and she coped very well. She received medical care. She received good medical care, and everything went well. But given what we know about diabetes, you now start to wonder, what's going to happen next?
Yeah.
Is the next pregnancy going to be complicated? Is she going to lose this baby early, which happens with this type of diabetes, type 1 diabetes, unlike the type 2, which happens in adult onset. Many people who are diabetic know this difference. You know, type 2, which happens as an adult onset, the early pregnancy loss is not quite a feature. But here, this type 1, early pregnancy loss, then if they survive that, not that it happens to all of them, but at least there's a higher risk than if they were not, if they were not diabetic. There are other complications waiting to happen. Be it high blood pressure, hypertension in the pregnancy. The fluid, the amniotic fluid could get so massive that the baby is roaming around and can entangle with cords and things like that. That's another danger waiting to happen. The baby can get too big.
Yes.
Because of the sugar control. The baby can be too small, depending on how long the diabetes had gone. Like when it had, suppose somebody had it for years and it had from childhood, it could be that it affected the blood vessels feeding that area and the baby doesn't grow too well. So those are the dangers awaiting her, and more. How did she do? How was she going to cope with all of this? Fortunately, she had her doula. Even though she was a bereavement doula, she was able to relate to her and her husband and the whole family. But there were certain obstacles still along the way. They get pregnant again. The good thing happens. They get pregnant again.
And everybody.
That is the beauty of it. But how will it go?
Yeah.
Will these complications of pregnancy happen to her? The story tells us the details of that. What will happen? Now, you think that was enough, the challenge of the diabetes? No, not quite. On top of that, we found out during the pregnancy, say that the baby and the mother's blood types do not quite match well.
Goodness gracious.
That's complicated. These are the obstacles pregnancy poses for these women. As we say, I forgot this. It was in the middle of COVID.
Oh my
COVID pandemic. COVID pandemic, and she couldn't even see her husband regularly. Her husband couldn't follow her through the pregnancy when she was going through certain incidents that happened during the pregnancy.
Right.
Nor could the doula whom she had, learned to trust.
Right.
This is where we pause and say, yes, there is anxiety, there is trepidation, but along the way, the patients, with help, learn to cope.
Yes.
Who helped them cope?
Right. The
What
resiliency. Mhm.
will I offer her an acupuncture at this point? How can
Yes.
she? What
Yes
is
is
that
my
make?
answer.
Yes, yes. What will make her and endorphins, support this? Lighter. But she had the doula, she had her husband, she had the family. For us in the book, you see the theme going all along.
Yeah.
That hope hangs in the balance.
Yes. Yes. And caring.
Hope,
Caring,
yes.
the hope and the caring
Hope and the
linked
caring
together
go
to
hand in hand.
create the
The
resilience.
resilience of the patients.
Yeah.
Yeah, the expertise of the people giving care, doctor, doula,
Mhm.
the warmth, the relationship, the shared decision making, all those things go hand in hand.
Yeah.
And that hope hanging in the air gives something to look forward to.
Beautiful.
And I will generalize here, as that book says, and the many joyful outcomes that follow
There you
can
go.
only be considered as everyday medical miracles.
Yes.
Right.
Yes. Yes. And
The
those
rest of the
everyday
details
medical
of this story,
miracles.
I will leave the readers to find out.
There you go. There you go. Another cliffhanger here. But I just love that that there is such a commitment toward the human story with all of this. Because
Yes,
this
yes,
could be a textbook medical case that was shared.
yes,
And of course, that
yes,
would be to an entirely different audience. But this
yes.
book seems to be written for not that purpose. So tell the listeners, who are you writing for? Who do you want to have pick up this book and share it with whom?
I'm just going to quickly start, but anyone who has any interest, involvement with women's health, care, okay? And so if whether you're a healthcare provider, that's the last thing on your radar screen, etc. I always say if you're interested in a book that's going to lighten your day, put a little smile on your face, and an occasional tear in your eye, we're for you. Okay. And again, we try to put this together in such a way that it would, even the cover, which Dr. Carrie Andrew-Jah had a lot to do with, etc., is trying to show mother and baby and putting everything together. But wherever you are, on the hemisphere, I guess I'd say. That's my opinion. Carrie, what do you think?
Yes, I also, because both of us are teachers,
Yes.
yeah, we want to see that people who are learners, which includes all of us, hopefully, learners, medical students is who I had in mind. When I was a medical student, I used to love this kind of books.
Right.
There were not too many of them,
Yeah.
The one I remember the most, the one I remember the most was about a doctor in Budapest, and he was a fanatic for hand washing.
Uh-huh.
He told the doctors, "Wash your hands." His name was Ignaz, if I'm saying it right, Philip Semmelweis.
Okay.
Semmelweis. He told his colleagues, "Wash your hands. Otherwise, we're going to pass infection from the anatomy lab into these wombs where they were all practicing obstetrics."
Right. Right. Yep.
They would
Yep.
not listen to him. He brought water in a basin to give to them. Wash your hands. I could see it as a student reading, and it splashed the water away. The guy went crazy. He went mad, lost his mind because his colleagues would not even listen to him.
And he was,
Listen to him.
and he
It's
knew.
a simple thing as hand
Yeah.
washing. Anyway, those type of stories influenced me. Imagine that for me, and medical students reading this, nurses trying to decide, should I go into orthopedics or should I go into obstetrics? Let them read this book and they'll find that there's a place for them in obstetrics, the nurse practitioners, the midwives, and so on and so forth. So it's written for the general public, their families, and also for people who are learners who want to get a glimpse as into what is women's healthcare about, and to get it from storytelling. Storytelling is a way to captivate the mind, So
It's how we share ourselves as humans. I
exactly.
will add, if I may, in addition to the general public and in addition to the med student or anybody in the healing arts, I would love to see this book be on the book club list for mothers clubs.
Okay.
Because this is a group of people who, in many cases, some have gone into their delivery or into their pregnancy and have had stories that they would have loved to have been able to share or have their story listened to by others. And oftentimes the stories are kind of in isolation. So just to be able to read it through this grouping of stories, the 40 stories, and know that, oh, I see myself in that, or I see my sister or my friend or my community member. So
And Susan, this is a very valid point, and I wanted to read to you the dedication. This book is dedicated to our patients whom we treat as family, and to our family for their patience during this journey. So,
amen. Yes. I love the play on words. That's beautiful. That's beautiful. Well, I want to be mindful. I want to make sure that you each get to make sure you've delivered all of your messaging and be mindful and respectful of your time and the viewers' time. So is there anything that I haven't asked about that you want to say, but make sure we get this point across?
no, Susan, and not from my perspective. As predicted, you covered everything. Perhaps, how do you get the book? And
That was,
Carrie,
yes.
Carrie is the expert there.
How you get Amazon has the book.
Great.
Amazon has it. If you wanted it on Amazon today, just type in the title, Everyday Medical Miracles, and you'll get the Kindle version. The actual print copy will be ready by the 24th. When is the 24th?
That's just 2 days away, I think.
2 days away to tomorrow.
Today's the 24th.
That's exactly
today. Oh, we're having a birthday. Uh-oh. Do I dare ask?
Amazon promised
Do you
that they'll
sing happy birthday to your book?
Oh, yes, it is. It is. It is. Anyway, so so that's one. Barnes and Noble has, and our publisher, BookBaby, has it. Store.bookbaby.com. But I can send you the links. Send you the links. And if you
please
can,
do. Yes. Thank you. I will make sure they're in the show notes. So listeners just go down to the show notes and click on through and get it at whatever.
I want to add that BookBaby has made it possible for every place that sells books to get this book. So everywhere that books are sold. If that's the way to put it, right?
As it should be. As it should be. Well, gentlemen, doctors, this is.
You had asked a question earlier, I think, in our chit chat earlier, and you asked the question about the journey.
Yes.
And I kind of was pondering between things. Why is this a journey? And I thought to myself, the idea of a journey is to set a framework so that you can tell the story. That was how it occurred first. Let's get them together so the listener, can accompany us. As we tell the story. I could imagine it on a cruise ship, having all these experts together on a medical course or something, and the audience is listening to them, as they share stories, the most memorable stories in their OB and infertility alive. But each also for the storytellers here, for the characters, let me call them the characters in the story. The patient is the primary character. The doctor and the family, the caregiver is the secondary character in the stories. But each of them is going through a journey too.
Exactly.
It's a journey for the patient, a life journey and this story, as Joe has put in his writing in the book, it changed many lives.
Yes.
It changed, the stories changed, the events that led to these stories changed the life not only for the patient, but also
for the
caregiver.
Yes.
That's what makes it a journey.
If I could say one other thing, Dr. Carrie Andrew-Jah and I have decided that a portion of the royalties go to an education fund for residents in training, for advanced practice providers, PAs, nurse practitioners. We also included labor and delivery nurses and like IVF laboratory.
Yeah.
So that was very important to us. And then, with your permission, another book that I have is this Expert Guide to Fertility, Boost Your Chances for Pregnancy.
Yeah.
And this is a companion book for anyone going through infertility. And that's the way I designed it, if you will, along with Dr. Kumar.
I have my copy.
Mine is in the office. I'd be holding mine up as well, but mine is in the office.
I have my copy. Thank you, Joe.
Yeah,
But we want to thank you
also a
so
fantastic
much.
book, and I really want to thank you both, because again, there are so many ways to tell and hear a story, but it's sometimes challenging to find the ones and to hear the ones that just really just go straight to your heart, and you just manage to create the environment and create the actual product, the book that does that. So viewers, please, listeners, please don't hesitate to get this book. Share it with the people you love. You're going to be thankful for yourself, and someone's going to thank you for it.
Oh,
Thank you, Susan.
thank you,
for the
Dr. Fox.
opportunity.
It's been a pleasure.
Oh, all mine, all mine. Lovely chatting with you both. We're going to have you hurry up and get your next book so I can have you on again. And
We'll
as
get
soon
on
as I hang up, I know I'm going to go YouTube The Singing Doctor, because I want to hear some of these songs.
Thank you. Quite a pleasure.
Thank you
My
so
pleasure.
much.
Have a lovely
Appreciate it.
evening.